Bye, honey. All right, baby, now we're all alone for the whole weekend. And yeah, I know, my handwriting really sucks. So first thing on our list was power steering. It's been an issue since the swap. It just feels really heavy, like I'm not getting full assist. In parking lots, it really sucks. And even at slow speeds, 15, 20, rolling through a roundabout, you're not all that confident in how much effort it takes to turn the wheel. So my first thought was that it might be due to the location of my power steering reservoir. As you can see, the bottom of the reservoir is just about flush with the top of the pump, so there's not a very good elevation difference there. So what I did was unbolt it and zip tie the reservoir up near the top of the motor so that it had some headroom above the pump. That made absolutely no difference. So the next thing I thought is it might be the screen that's in the reservoir. Sometimes I've seen those get clogged up and the fluid will actually sit on top rather than passing through it, and your pump will start cavitating. So I pulled it off, drained it out, took a look at it, and it actually looked really good. So that wasn't it either.
Hi, Daddy.
Hi, sweetie. I ended up hitting with brake clean just to make sure, but it was pretty dang good, so that also wasn't my issue. So I just got done kind of going back to square one and inspecting the whole system. I checked the lines from the reservoir, the pump, the lines from the pump to the rack, inspected the rack on both the top and the bottom for any leaks or issues, the lines that circulate through the cooler and back to the power steering reservoir, and I just didn't see anything. One thing that I did notice though is the solenoid that's mounted to the rack right here has a plug that was zip tied up out of the way, and it's actually not hooked to anything. Toyota actually had a ton of really advanced technology in these cars back in the 80s. Progressive power steering was an extremely cutting edge thing. So essentially what it does is at low rates of speed, it allows you to have a higher assist ratio to your power steering. So when you're in a parking lot, you're turning at a stop, your steering wheel is still fairly light. Then as you get going faster on hitting highway speeds or even higher speeds, it dials back that assist, so it really firms up and you get a little better steering. Yes, I could remember that plug was hooked up at one point, but after inspecting the harness, it turns out there is no connector for it. So what I went ahead and did was run a temporary wire all the way from the glove box to the progressive power steering ECU, all the way up and around, and plug it into that. I know. All right, come on, bud. What do you need now? And then took it for a test drive. So again, after taking it for a test drive, that made absolutely no change, so that wasn't it either. So next I drove around with a multimeter rigged up to the outputs of the progressive power steering ECU, which verified that the ECU was in fact working and sending an output signal. Now that we've got the reservoir out of the way, you can see the power steering solenoid. It's in a tight spot to get to, so I think the best thing we can do is get a set of channel locks on it. There is a nut right there at the top, but there's just no way to get a wrench on it with it in the car. And I'm not about to pull the entire rack. It's not the engine, it's the steering, sweetie.
Oh. Okay, Daddy, but what about the camera? I see myself.
You do?
Yeah, what is that thing for? It's so big for me to look. Want to take a picture? Those on the engine.
That's not the engine, it's the steering, sweetie.
Can I get the steering off too? Okay. Where is the steering?
It's way down here underneath.
Oh, I can get it.
Daddy's having a hard time getting it out.
Maybe it's stuck at the engine. Maybe that's because the engine is stuck.
So per the Toyota service manual, the way that you test these is you hook up a 12 volts. You don't want to do it for very long, 30 seconds max so you don't burn out the solenoid, and then you check for clicking. I'm using a 9 volt, it's a little bit less voltage, but being as these solenoids run on about 1 volt, it should be more than enough.
I want to go somewhere.
Alright, sweetie. But Daddy's trying to get stuff done today, sweetie. It's kind of cold outside.
Set me up like lemonade. We both know it's bittersweet. This sorrowness will bite your tongue. No one is forever young. No. Listen to the rhythm. I'm feeling brand new. Keep pushing forward.
I'll get her.
It's gonna save you. Let it down, love. Not when we shine so bright. I know the sun is getting warmer.
So it is moving in there, but it's just a tiny amount. Let's see if you can even see this. You can see that movement down inside of the hole. It is moving, but it's not much. Okay, so that one's doing the same thing. So unfortunately, it looks like this unit actually is good, which the upside is I don't have to source a new one, which you can't buy individually anymore, so you have to source a used one. But the downside is I chewed it up for nothing to get it out just to check it. And we still don't know what our issue is. So it has been a long, long day. I gotta go inside, get the kids something to eat, get them ready for bed, and hang out with them for a bit, and then we are all gonna crash. Unfortunately, I didn't get anywhere on my power steering issue, let alone touching the other 2 items that were on my list for this weekend. Fortunately, I still got all day tomorrow, and I'm super hopeful that I will at least get this first thing figured out before the weekend is over.